Hello there, vinyl community and YouTube. Welcome balcony again. One of the few times this summer when I can actually do that. The summer here in Sweden, at least here in Sundsvall, has been not all that good. It has been raining, it has been cloudy and so on. Thanks to the trip to Gothenburg, I have managed to do pretty well still and have had a great vacation. Because there it was sunny and everything. So for me it has been a pretty good summer. And with that it also is the time to do a summary of what I've been finding during this month, this summer month, which usually is one of the prime times to find great records. Last summer it more or less rained records all over me. Not all that, but I've been finding pretty good stuff still anyway. The Gothenburg, and I have a few stuff that I won't be showing here in this vinyl CD update, and that is the stuff that I found in Gothenburg, because I'm doing of course a travelogue video series of Gothenburg, and I will show what I found there in those. I'm trying to edit them also, so it might take a little while, but I will show what I found in Gothenburg. Also, I was a couple of days ago in call it neighbor city called Härnösand, and found a whole lot of stuff there, and I will do a travelogue also from Härnösand, so there I will show what I found there. So these are records that I found not in Gothenburg, not in Härnösand, but in Sundsvall, you might say, in Sundsvall, during this summer. But it isn't all that bad. It's a little here and a little there, and some really good here. So in many kind of formats, and even a 78. Can you imagine? Hearing a motorcycle passing by. Starting with CDs, and this is a CD that I forgot to show in last month's vinyl CD update. I have been very interested in the singer Croce. Many of you at Vinyl Community have shown records by him, and I have been listening to some songs that I found very interesting, so I bought myself one collection. We're talking real low budget here. This is a collection series, the Croce collection, and it is released on something called Castle Communication. I never heard of that, and the entire record, it looks like this, no real picture than this on the front. So, but it contains a whole lot of great songs in great recordings, great transfers. So this is very good as a starter, I think, when I'm going to start to find more Croce, and great way to start. Then if I keep it when I find a real great, more professional collection, that is another story, but it works. I like this CD as a start. A couple of Swedish records. Here is Swedish singer Nonna Val that I've been mentioning a couple of times. One of my favorites, a woman with attitude, with charm and with humor and everything. I had good fortune to see her live this summer. Show you a couple of, maybe not all that good, but tries to photograph that concert here. And that was taken from the port during the Pride Festival here in Sundsvall in the beginning of July. And when I got back from Gothenburg, I found this. I think this is the only Nonna record that I'm missing, so now I have complete her. My rock favorites. She does covers of different kind of rock tunes, from AOR rock to heavy metal. You see here a whole lot of what songs she does covers on. She sang Kiss Heaven's on Fire at the concert, I can say. Interesting here is, look at this, it's signed. My second Nonna autograph on record. I've also mentioned a couple of times Plura Jonsson from the group Elkhorn, that I am a huge fan of Elkhorn and their music. And in 2001 he turned 50 years old, and for that many of the Swedish artists did a compilation, a celebration compilation, an album where they sang many of his songs that he have composed for Elkhorn, the band. And we have Swedish names here, like my personal favorite, Peter Lemark, in a couple of songs. Jocke Berg from the group Kent. We have Pugh Rogefeldt, Lars Winnerbäck, Mauro Scocco, Staffan Hellstrand, Totta Näslund, Lisa Nilsson, and so on. Great names in this Plura 50. Very, very interesting. Jazz, Lionel Hampton, small combos released on Jazz Roots, 1937 to 1940. Often when you find Lionel Hampton, it is with his big band, not too often with smaller bands, so therefore I really wanted to have this one. It's a really great CD. I'm no fan of Dixieland. I think Dixieland live, okay, I can listen to it, even though it's not my most favorite style. I can listen to it, but on record I think it's very boring. But I bought this Sundsvall's Dixielanders, a Dixieland band from my city, with just a closer walk. And this album I bought for one reason only, and that is that this person right here was my English teacher in gymnasium high school. So I wanted to have this record. I've seen them live many times, and for a Dixieland band they're pretty good, so it's great to have a CD with them. Singles, vinyl singles. This is a Danish singer, Lis Sørensen. Had a couple of great songs during the late 80s. This is the follow-up single to, I think, her great hit Mine øjne de skal se, the summer hit from 89. This is a song called Fri for at drømme om dig. Pardon my bad Danish, Karsten Olsen. I'm really, really sorry. On the B-side, Hjertenes sang. Really good. Not of course as Mine øjne de skal se was a great song, but still a really good one. 3 Degrees, pretty late, from 79. The Golden Lady. The B-side, Sophisticated Like You, which more or less is another title for an instrumental version of The Golden Lady. This is interesting. This is the Planets EP. Planets was some kind of a new wave-ish pop rock band in the late 70s. This is from 79 and from an album called Goon Hilly Down. I think it is the most famous album. An EP they released with songs from that album, Too Late, Lines, Break It to Me Gently, and their most famous song, Iron for the Iron, which is the only song I've heard of them before, but still it's great to have it on any kind of format. So this EP was actually really good. I really like this one, so highly recommended. During when I grew up in the 80s, late 80s, I listened a lot to Swedish radio, and at summertime a show at Friday evenings called Kulan I luften that I really liked, and there they played often a song by South African band Banjaluka, fronted by Johnny Clegg from Johnny Clegg and Savuka. This was the band he had, I think, before that. And he played a lot a song called Scatterlings of Africa. And ever since then I've been trying to find that on single, and finally I found it on the Red Cross here at the island of Alnö. It's a really great mix blend between 80s pop and African music. They really managed to do a song that mix those two styles very good. And think this is a really good song. I'm not going to try to pronounce the title of the B-side. A little hard to pronounce it. This was a complete blind buy, but for 10 cents I could give it a shot. Himalaya. It is a band from the early 70s, and this song is called Put Your Hand in the Hand. Pretty good pop with a little gospel touch. I think it's pretty good actually. And Imagination on the B-side. So those were the singles. Now 78. Don't find all that much 78, mostly because I collect only jazz 78s nowadays, and it's not easy to find that jazz 78 that is all that interesting. But this one was very great finding, because it's very hard to find bebop jazz on 78. Not all that easy. It's much easier with big band and swing, and especially big band. But here I managed to find this Charlie Parker and his orchestra, which is another word for Charlie Parker with strings. And a project that Charlie Parker liked very much, most because he really liked to listen to classical music when he didn't play jazz, and this was something that he wanted to do because of that interest. This is Night and Day on one side, and I Can't Get Started on the other side. So really great to have 78 with Charlie Parker. I have a couple of 78s with Charlie Parker since before, but it's great to have this one with strings on 78. Now, a huge stack of full-length vinyls. Starting off with jazz, continuing with jazz. This is Benny Goodman, The Golden Era of Jazz, Live and Rare, Volume 4. When you look at the titles, it looks like a pretty ordinary Benny Goodman compilation, which I normally try to avoid. I want to find those more special, not this compilation with these most ordinary songs that you have heard many times. And here we have Let's Dance, King Porter Storm, Down South Camp Meeting, AC/DC Current, and so on. But the interesting here is it says Live and Rare, Okay, some are the ordinary recordings, but some of them also are other live recordings. That is interesting. 7 Come 11, it's a very ordinary, is in another version actually, even though it still is with the same musicians. So it's very interesting, but the most interesting here is, and I think that was one of the reasons I bought it, is that it is from another country's release. This is a Hungarian release from Hungary, and says here a lot with the Hungarian language. So I have learned that orchestra in Hungarian is zenekar. I learned that piano is zangora and drums is dob. You might never know when you can have use for, say, orchestra, piano and drums when you're traveling to Hungary. Rick Springfield, Beautiful Feelings. This is a release from 1984. These songs were released from the beginning in 1978, but here they have taken Rick's voice and mixed it up with new recordings of the music. So it's very, very interesting. A lot of soul, of course. What would a vinyl CD update be nowadays without any soul? This is a band that I actually wasn't all that familiar with, so I cheated a bit. I checked on YouTube for this album to see if it was actually good, and I found it, yeah, it was really, really good and funky. Main Ingredients and Rolling Down the Mountainside from 1975. Sounded really, really funky actually, even though I haven't heard of the band and it's not released on any of the classic soul labels. My Randy Crawford collection keep going on, keep getting stronger. Miss Crawford from 1977. Now I more or less have everything from her 80s catalog. I started to discover the 70s. And speaking of artists in their earliest years, this is Natalie Cole in the 70s, which I was very, very interested in finding. Listen to quick peeks of it, and it sounds very, very interesting, very, very good actually. This is Natalie from 1976. It's one jazz group that I have been very interested in for a couple of years now, that I found very, very interesting, and that is a vocal group called the Singers Unlimited. I think they sing very, very good together. They're really great in singing jazz, and I have a couple of albums with them, and I managed to find an album called A Cappella 2, released on MPS. Singers Unlimited was protégés, you might call it, of Oscar Peterson. He discovered them, he brought them to this German label MPS, and they also have done a couple of records together. Here they sing a couple, both commercial pop songs and jazz tunes, which made me hesitate, but I felt like I liked this band, so I trust them that this is actually really good. As usual, arranged and conducted by Gene Perling. They play here, they sing Killing Me Softly, Yesterday, and Claire Gilbert O'Sullivan song, alongside with April in Paris and Autumn in New York and Like Someone in Love. So it's a mix of pop and jazz, but it's interesting. Soundtrack. This is the soundtrack of the movie from 1979, Watership Down, in Sweden called Den långa flykten. The animated movie about rabbits, and also famous for the movie with bright eyes, Art Garfunkel's. The soundtrack with a lot of, it's going to be very, very interesting. Music composed by Angela Morley, with the exception from Bright Eyes. So it's very interesting. I showed not too long ago that I bought Holly Johnson's Blast, his most famous album. I also managed to find the album after that, Dreams That Money Can't Buy, from 91, I think. Yes. Jazz. This is Bengt Hallberg, Swedish pianist, famous pianist. Played with many of the greatest jazz musicians, both Swedish and American. Here he plays with a Swedish trio, Gunnar Jonsson bass and Anders Burman drums, the same Anders Burman that created Metronome, the label. So this is I think 60s, 50s or late 50s or 60s release. So very interesting Swedish jazz piano trio. Compilations, I try to be very this kind of best of compilations with different artists. I try to stay away from a bit nowadays. I want to have the artists' real albums instead of different artists' compilations, with exception from maybe different theme albums with songs that I don't actually have found anywhere else, dance compilations and so on. The different kind of house compilations. Here I managed to find though double LP set compilations with different 70s soul artists that looked very interesting. Save the Children, I think it's kind of a charity. 22 great tracks. And here we have Marvin Gaye, we have Roberta Flack and Quincy Jones, Cannonball Adderley, Curtis Mayfield, Gladys Knight and the Pips, Temptations, Jackson 5, OJ's, Sulima, Bill Withers. All these great on one double albums. It's going to be very interesting. Ramsey Lewis have here, Ghost Latin. I've shown before Ramsey Lewis and the album where he does Hollywood music, soundtrack music, and I found that very great. I thought that was real good, and it was conducted and arranged by Richard Evans, and so is this. So it's going to be very interesting. He plays Latin and Brazilian music. Otherwise, this album is pretty ordinary in Swedish dollar bins at flea markets, but felt like I wanted to give it a try. I'm going to show a couple of artists that I have discovered through a TV show that I like very much. I think I mentioned before that I like very much to watch Soul Train, the classic soul show from the 70s that have many episodes on YouTube, and through that I discovered a whole lot of 70s soul artists that I never heard or played before, such as this one. I've heard of them, but I never heard anything with them. Grand Central Station, and this is the album Now You Want to Dance from 1977. I listened to this one. It's real funky, real great, real party music, but most of all well made and fantastic produced. So I think it's interesting to find more Grand Central Station. Also this one I heard on Soul Train, and I was knocked out by her fantastic voice, and I felt like I wanted to have an album with her. I put it on my wish list, and finally I managed to find, and it is this album that she sang from at the Soul Train also. This is Sulima, Croce, something like that. She's as a last name, and this has a little pop, 70s pop in it, but also with a soulish and funky style. Real great voice and real great produced. I really like this singer. I'm going to hopefully find more of her later on, even if it's not that easy, as I haven't seen until now her. More 70s soul, but from a woman that have been mentioned before. I've been showing records with her before. Linda Clifford, and this is the album I'm Yours from 1980. This one I have real high hopes for. Linda Clifford is the protege of Curtis Mayfield. She released 6 albums on his label Cartoon. This is the final album that she released on Curtis Mayfield's label. But not only is Curtis Mayfield's spirit all over the album, it's produced by Isaac Hayes. This voice, the spirit of Curtis Mayfield, and the production of Isaac Hayes. How could this go wrong? I don't think so. 70s, not soul. I showed in last previous vinyl CD update that I have been interested in finding records with Captain and Tennille. I found one record, I've managed to find another one. I've found their compilation, Greatest Hits from 77, that also. It's very, very great and interesting. Great romantic pictures. I listened to this one and I really like this album. I thought it was real well made, real soft and relaxing music, so I will definitely keep an eye open for more albums by Captain and Tennille. And I finished off with a couple of Elton John albums. First of all, the sleeve maybe not the best, but the album is really good quality. Here we have Rock with the Westies from 1975. Pretty ordinary album, but I don't have it until now. It will be very, very interesting. And I really felt like I wanted to get a hold of this also, since I like the song Nikita. It's on this album. This is Ice on Fire from 1985. So, that was my July. Now, let's see what August can bring. A couple of contests and threads going on. I'm going to try to answer them. I promised a review of the records that I got from Baraka P Dub, and I'm going to show them also. So I have some things to do. So until next time, let's hope that you have a very nice time and nice rest of the summer. Take care, everybody, and so long.